masterclass titled Beyond the Archives Trekking Through Ruins and Forgotten Temples, led by Dr. Carla Ionescu. Firstly, what is SASA? SASA stands for Save Ancient Studies Alliance. It works to promote the study of the ancient world and engagement with our human deeper past. Building a grassroots movement through outreach, collaboration, accessibility, and public scholarship, we work towards our goal of inspiring a wide, inclusive community of scholars, learners, and students. You can find us on all major social media platforms by just looking up Save Ancient Studies. A few housekeeping rules before we start. Please be kind and respectful. Listen and ask thoughtful questions throughout the event. Please be patient with technology and those administering it. Our events are live streamed on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and the recordings are archived on those platforms. And most importantly, have fun. Our birthday bash is one of our major fundraisers. So if you are able to make a donation, please do so. We currently have a triathlon between the members of SASA, and you can make a donation for your favorite triathlete. If you enjoy our events, please consider becoming a supporter of SASA with a recurring monthly donation. For as little as $3 a month, you can help us save ancient studies. Thank you for joining us again. I'll now hand it over to Carla.
Thank you so much, Parthika. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Carla Ionescu. I am an ancient historian. I received my PhD in 2016 from York University in Toronto, Canada. And my area of specialty, even during my dissertation research, was the goddess Artemis. While I was doing my dissertation research there, I focused on Artemis of Ephesus and her connection to the Virgin Mary in Ephesus. It was a very specific moment in time and space and all of that. But since then, I've expanded my work to encompass all of the worship of Artemis. So I wrote a small book that was inspired by my dissertation on the Greek Artemis called She Who Hunts. And now I'm working on a larger text, which is kind of inspired. It is inspired by my dissertation, but so much has happened in between then and now that it's a much larger product on Artemis of Ephesus. And that should come up, I don't know, hopefully in a couple of months. It's been submitted a while ago. So, and I hope to have a book on Artemis in Anatolia, and then maybe one in Italy, and eventually some other area. So I think I've got about 5 or 6 sort of books in different geographical spaces of Artemis that will come out of this research. In the meantime, while I'm writing this research, I'm doing the trekking through the temples. So far, we've been to Greece and Anatolia. So today, I'm going to share with you a couple of sites that we've been to. 4 sites that we've been to. 3 are in Greece and 1 is in Turkey. And we're going to do a combination of hiking to the sites and then also sites that are more open, like Eleusis, for example. You can go in and visit, you pay your fee, you enter, etc. And sites that are sort of empty or abandoned. So we're going to do a little combination of that. So my presentation today, my class today, is going to be a mix of photography, on location footage of the hikes while we're hiking up there, some camera recordings on the sites, and then some artifacts that are in the museums, things like that. So a combination of what is out in the actual world on the ground, what is in the museums, and some of the history of these sites. So hopefully it all works smoothly. I have uploaded a presentation, so I guess I just play it. Let's see. Okay, present. Oh, perfect. Let's see how that works. Okay. So let's hope that it's as easy as it seems. Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to actually first share with you my little Artemis peripeteia. So this image is at the Temple of Artemis Aptera in Crete. Um, Before I started the trekking, the mapping program and the trekking, which I'll tell you about in 1 minute, somebody had sent me this little Artemis, this little kind of bronze Artemis as a gift. And I thought, oh, this is a great sign to bring this piece with me to all the temples and have her kind of stand on different temples and reclaim maybe her power, her original thought, like her original, what's the word I'm looking for? Power? Yeah, let's go with that. Hopefully you still see me because Parthika is gone. Okay. Okay, you're there. Okay, sorry. I had a small heart attack. Okay. Because I don't want to get dropped and I don't know it, and you're all standing there going, "Where's Carla?" So when I received this, when I received this little statue, I decided to give her name. So I called her Peripeteia. And in Greek, Peripeteia refers to adventure in a way, but adventure that has also danger and fun. And so there's this kind of sense of both the difficulty of adventure and adventure itself. And I think that that really encompasses what it's like to trek to some of these sites. And so I've taken her to all of the sites. I've placed her on the temple, and some part of me also feels like she's absorbing and reclaiming some of the energies at these temples. So we'll see. There's a bit of a spiritual lean in my academic process as well, right? There's a reclaiming of some of these sites as well, which I think is very important as we begin to look back in time more and more critically and more analytically of what was written about some of these sites originally. Let's see, that should work. Perfect. So for those of you that are not familiar with my work, the Artemis Mapping Project really began as a dream, because as an academic, when you're working and you're doing your dissertation, you have very little time for travel, but you are dreaming of travel because you're always with the ancients, right? You're always in primary source. Pausanias being a great example for me. I was always sort of with him trying to figure out where are these temples to Artemis, what is he saying about them, etc. Pausanias being the first kind of travel vlogger of his time. And so I always dreamed that I could maybe go and see some of the sites that he visited. But I knew it was difficult then. I know it's more difficult now after trying. So I kind of imagined that this would take some preparation. And about a year ago, I met someone online who was interested in archaeology. She's a retired lawyer. And we had originally planned to go see a couple of sites, go to Greece together and go see a few sites. And I thought, you know what? Since we're doing this, you like archaeology, I'm an ancient historian. Maybe we can stop at some sites, start documenting. Maybe we can build a map, which has always been my goal, an accurate map. Because there's some sites that are on the Google map, but some of the sites are actually mislabeled. Some of them, wherever the pin is not where the site is. Some of the images are very, very dated. And so I thought, maybe the sites that we can go to, we can kind of update. And then that led to a whole conversation about starting our own Google map and our own Google links and doing our own documentation and our own photography and our own filming at the sites. Plus a description of the site, a historical description of the site, plus some artifacts that were found at the site. And so the mapping project was born. However, there are so many temples to Artemis in Greece. At first, I had thought that there are about 168, 170. And I thought, okay, 170, we'll go to Greece a couple of times a year if we can raise the funds, and that should take us a little while. But just in the first trip that we did, just in the first expedition that we did, we had expected to see about 10 temples, and we found 30. So for every temple that we arrived at, there were 3 or 4 other temples all around it to Artemis alone. Okay. And so I very quickly realized that, number one, no one had documented all of these temples together. Obviously, archaeologists from all over the world had dug up these temples, or else we wouldn't really know about them even within the Greek museum or the small town museums that we go to. But no one had sort of looked at everything everyone has found and then tried to map it. And there were places that were dug up, or places that were once dug up and then were covered up, that no one had mapped. And so we were, in that first trek that we did, and some of it is here in this presentation, I was quite overwhelmed with how many temples to Artemis there are. Now, as a graduate student, I knew that she was much more significant than what early archaeologists and historians said that she was. Many early archaeologists focused on Athena, Demeter, Aphrodite. Those are the top three. Artemis had some, information, obviously, and some research, but the focus wasn't on her in the way that I think it should be. Of course, I'm biased, so Artemis is the center of my world, pretty much, both academically and in some ways personally. So we realized that actually this project may take up to 5 years, and that we may find double the amount of temples, 300, 400 temples. I have no idea. And that's in Greece alone, because we went to Anatolia. I will show you one from Turkey. And then I can't even get started on Diana in Italy, because that will also take a significant amount of time. And so what became very clear was how significant this research may be at the end. And so that started the mapping project. And then we became a bit like, I became certainly, a little bit like an investigator, a detective. My friend likes to call me Indiana Jones, because, Diana being Artemis. And I am a little obsessed, I have to say, and that's probably most of us academics become obsessed with a thing. I became really obsessed with making sure that we document everything. So this is a screenshot of what the temple sites look like on the Google Maps on my Artemis Research Center map. I should say that I developed an organization, a nonprofit organization called the Artemis Research Center, which funds some of this research, which also offers courses and books and all these other kind of things. Thank you. So I just took a screenshot of the map, because what I'm doing right now, like I said, we have lots of temples. But what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to put one up every 2 weeks, so that I can also do some writing about it, research a little bit about it. And then eventually I also have a Substack. I would like to have Substack blogs that match each of these pins. But I've quickly learned that's quite overwhelming when you're teaching a full course load. And I've got courses going through the Artemis Center plus planning this. So the Substack is falling a little bit behind slowly, because I also talk on there about artifacts and things like that. But the map is slowly getting populated. And you can kind of see on the map, there's different colors. We've color coded. So the yellow is the temple sites, but the green, for example, and the light beige. On our treks, we've also found, for example, modern statues of Artemis that, are not publicly accessible, weren't even on the internet. We're driving by and my friend is like, oh my God, I think that's a statue of Artemis. And then we pull up and whatever. Or when we were in Eritrea, for example, we were driving by and a whole football stadium is dedicated to Artemis. And therefore, there's all kinds of Artemis graffiti on the walls, and paintings and modern art. And so we're documenting that as well, because I think that's also important. If you're in a town somewhere in Greece and you like Artemis, for example, and you're like, I wonder if there's anything about Artemis around me, you can pull up this Google map and you can see if there's anything around you that you'd like to go visit or photograph or anything like that. So we've color coded there's also stadiums. There's a couple of stadiums dedicated to Artemis that we found, and a couple of other spaces that are non-temples. And so we're adding them to the maps as well, because that's part of the road trip. I mean, we are road tripping on this expedition. And so there's a lot of driving actually that's involved. And so you get to see a little bit of the villages and the people, and also what's around in the towns themselves. Yeah. So the map looks like this, and I think it will eventually become so populated that you may not see the green of Greece behind some of these pins, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Okay, so let me take you to the first place. The first place is easy and yet fascinating. The first place is at Eleusis. Now, many of you are probably familiar with Eleusis because this is where the Eleusinian Mysteries took place for thousands of years to Demeter, Persephone. Hades has a plutonium on the site. And then it was taken over by the Romans, and the Romans continued that celebration for some time. But the site at Eleusis was closed for years, at least 5 to 7 years. And so last year around January, I want to say, um, it was open. So we ended up going, but it was still kind of all over the place. It was still a bit of a mess. I'll show you a little bit of video. But when you walk onto the site, I was prepared to see Demeter and all of these wonderful things. But when you walk onto the site, you see this temple. And I turned to my travel partner and I said, wow, this really looks like an Artemis temple, you know? And as we got closer, we realized that this is the temple of Artemis Propylaea, which is the Artemis of the Gateway. So this temple stands or stood before you go up the sacred way to the Telesterion, where they would have celebrated the Eleusinian Mysteries, the lesser and the greater mysteries. So here is Artemis at the gateway. So she here in her role, she is the guardian of the thresholds. People refer to her as Artemis before the gates. This is a really important role in the ancient role and in these mysteries, because here she is associated, she's a torchbearer, she's a light bringer. Sometimes people call her here Phosphorus, or Phosphorus, which is, again, light bringer, or light bringer is probably better. Day bringer, knowledge bringer, etc., etc. And so she illuminates the gateway. So she plays this very key role. And as we move forward through the site, and as we go to the museum, which I'll show you in a second, we see this deep connection of Artemis with Demeter, Persephone, and in some cases Poseidon as well, and this association with the mystery cults. And there is a lesser known story or mythology about Artemis that connects her as the daughter of Demeter and Poseidon. It's lesser known, it's lesser accepted, right? So many of you are probably familiar with Artemis and Apollo being twins, Leto being their mother, and then Zeus, of course, being their father. And that's the traditional story that was mostly practiced. But there is this sort of side story that she may have been the daughter of Demeter, which makes her the sister of Persephone. And we see her here, and the next site that I'm going to show you, as a key player in these massively popular rituals for the ancient Greeks. And so Artemis Propylaea then, in her temple here at Eleusis, was quite large and had a significant impact on everyone who visited the site to honor Demeter and Persephone during the rituals and outside of the rituals. So now let's see if this will play. So, okay. Let me see if this doesn't play. Okay, this will play. Hold on. Let me see if I share my screen with you all. Yeah, that's not gonna let me. Okay, let me see if I share my screen with you all. Okay, so you can see my screen now, yes? Okay, perfect. You can see all of us. Let's play. Okay. First, let me check with you before I play. Let me check with you all. You can see that, Parthika, when I show my PowerPoint?
No, right now I can only see the restream screen.
I see. Hold on. So I'm sharing. Am I sharing my screen? I see. I see what you mean. Hold on. Entire screen. Let's see if it'll let me share the entire screen. Okay. So now you see us. Perfect. Do you see? Okay, now you see that, right?
Yeah, I can see your presentation now.
Okay. Okay, let's test this and see. This is a very short 20-second video. Do you see the video large now?
No.
No. I see. Okay, so let's do this. Let's see. Look at us working on the fly with all of these things. I don't know how good that will be. Uh, do you see the screen now?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, so let me press play and see.
Yes, it's playing. Yay.
We are now in Eleusis. The site itself is quite complicated. They're good 1,000-year plus on top of each other. Romans on top of Greeks. And yet, there is something very, very special about this site. One of the things that's an issue, of course, is that the site is still massively under construction. The museum is closed. Parts of it are closed, as you can see. But it's still really special that we are able to come here and see some pieces. For example, the Temple of Artemis that is right here, and the fountain of Demeter that is right there. So there are a few pieces, and we're going to go up. We have not gone up yet. We're just kind of exploring the bottom part. There's a few pieces here that are really fascinating. I'm very excited to start walking up these stairs. Okay. Now I'm going to wait. Let me just see if the next slide. No. Okay. So I can share my slides with you now for a little bit until the next video. Haha. Okay. Okay. So that's just a short little clip of walking around. As you can see, people were just sort of coming in and just starting to visit. If you are going to Greece at all, this site is just outside of Athens. I want to highly recommend that you guys visit because it's just open, so we want to bring attention to it. But also, there's so much there to see. And finally, the museum. So when I went the first time, the museum was closed. So I'm going to show you the next slide, which is inside the museum. And it's a brand new museum. It's really beautiful, and it's got everything that's in that museum is from the site. So it's really wonderful. What you see here is one of the reliefs from the telesterion. So as you walk up the sacred way, there would have been the telesterion, which would have been closed, and then you have numerous pieces, of course, all around it. And this one has Artemis and Demeter and Persephone and some nymphs and some Amazons. There's lots of votive offerings at the site that were found. So much Demeter and Persephone artifacts, if that's something that you're interested in. A bunch of Hades/Pluto artifacts. In fact, there's a plutonium on the site that still has some holes in the back of the rocks. And the first time that I went, there was some young people that had come there with schools, and they were just astonished that they had to come and watch and look at rocks in a cave. You know what I mean? They were just like, oh my God, yes, okay, Pluto is here. Great. Like, who's looking at rocks? And here I am, obsessed with the fact that in the little holes in the plutonium, people had left pomegranates as offerings. Yeah. And so it was kind of a weird, surreal situation, depending on sort of what you're into or what you enjoy. And for me, it was surreal to be there. And for these young school children who probably go to temple sites, a couple of times a month with their school, they're probably like, their opinion was, oh my God, a bunch of rocks, another temple. So it was kind of cute. In the corner here, I have an image of one of the columns. This is one of the only places I've seen, though maybe there are others, that has this double torch on all around the columns. Now, these columns are kind of on the floor everywhere. We were told that eventually they're going to move them around and things like that. And as I said, the site was still being constructed, but they were opening it, I guess, to get some more funding, to get attention, to get people to come. And so I highly recommend that you go. It will probably change as you go each time more and more. They have an entire back and behind the telesterion that is all Roman everything from housing to aqueducts to everything. So if you're into Roman history, I highly recommend that. Yeah, that you go visit there as well. Yeah. So it's a beautiful site. Let me see what's next. So this site then, at Eleusis, was one of the few times that I had seen Artemis as a torchbearer. I knew that she was a torchbearer because I've seen her carry torches before, but it reminded me of this image that I saw at the Athenian Archaeological Museum in Athens. And in Athens, at the museum, you see only the head in this image of Artemis, and then there's the head of Demeter. That's all that they have there, and they have, I think, a few nymphs or bodies of nymphs and sirens, so little broken pieces around it. But the head was really interesting to me, and I thought to myself, this is quite fascinating. Where is this site, right? Where is this fascinating piece? Because they did a reconstruction, which you can see here, roughly drawn, which is in the corner of this one wall. And this is the head, or these are all part of the pieces of the colossal statues of Demeter, Persephone, Artemis holding the torch, and Anytos, who is a Titan, who is also the protector of Persephone. And these pieces are from Lycosura. And Lycosura is on top of a mountain. It's a very difficult place to visit, always has been a difficult place to visit. And it's a place that, what's the word I'm looking for? Requires a great deal of hiking and climbing. And so one of the things that I was asking myself is, why do they have these massive colossal statues in the middle of a mountain, right? Like, that's kind of weird. Okay. So in Lycosura, this is the temple of Despoina or Despina. It's in Arcadia, as I said, up on the mountains. And so on our first expedition, I thought, you know what? Let's go see if we can find this site, because we're going to be up in the mountains, and let's go see if we can find this site. It's not difficult to find the actual site itself as far as the location, because there is the site that's still there that was obviously excavated. And then there's a little house on the site where we are told the colossal statues, the bodies, because obviously the heads are in Athens, but the torsos of at least Artemis and Demeter are still held in this little house. So I said to my traveling partner, we have to go. We have to go to Lycosura. We have to see Despina. I actually used this temple of Despina in my dissertation as a graduate student, because it had this long and complex connection with both Artemis's torchbearer, but also Demeter and Persephone. And again, this mythology around Artemis being the daughter of Demeter. The problem is that this is not a site that is open. And no one goes up there. And we had to apply for permission, which we do often, actually, because many of the sites are locked or inaccessible. And we've come across places where, people say, yeah, sure, someone will be there at this time on this day, and we go up there, and of course there's no one up there. It looks like there hasn't been anyone up there for 5-10 years. So we shot our shot. We sent an email to the village, to the town, to the people who were in charge of the site, and we said, hey, we're here this week and we're going up here, etc. We'd like to visit maybe Thursday if it's possible, etc., etc. My traveling partner is an ex-New York lawyer, so she loves to send emails to people with, Dr. Carla Ionescu is on this trek doing this thing, right? So she's very aggressive in many ways of chasing down some of these authorities. But we hadn't, we sent it a month in advance. We hadn't heard back, and we thought, okay, it's not going to happen. But we were in the vicinity looking at other temples and filming other stuff. And so I said to her, you know what, let's just go. We'll just go. And oftentimes you can photograph like across the fence, right? So the fences are, they're chain link fences, so you could get maybe your camera in there and take pics, etc. So let's just go, and if it's not open, then we can just take some pictures of it from the outside in. So we went, yeah, and as oh, Heba, that's wonderful. I've been at the Temple of Artemis in Jerash. And also, I love Jordan, actually. Yes, yes, yes. And the cult statue there is said to have been massive, of course, now lost. But yes, yes. So Artemis is really significant. And I know, like I said, so you know my bias, but what I'm learning, even here at this site, for example, and on every sites we've been, is that there are, as an academic now, I'm thinking, okay, I will theorize. Let's hypothesize, okay? Based on the 2 expeditions we've done so far, my theory is that in the end of this entire project, 5 years, whatever it takes, I will prove beyond any academic shadow of a doubt that there are more temples to Artemis in Greece, especially, than any other god or goddess, including Athena. Yeah, which I know that's the challenger. Athena is really the challenger. Demeter would be sort of second. The male gods don't actually have a lot of temples as much as we've been told that they do, but they actually don't have a lot of temples. And in fact, often they also have, wherever there's a temple to Apollo or a temple to Zeus, there's also, of course, temple to Athena, or sorry, Athena is also worshipped there with him, and often Artemis as well. But that may be for another masterclass another day. Yeah. For Artemis, the just the quantifiable amount of temples that are for her, or that are on sites wherever someone else is just beyond even my own belief sometimes. We've gone to lots of places where we expect to see one, as I'll show you, and there's 2 or 4, and you're like, whoa, what's going on here? Well, everyone else has one. So you're like, what is going on here? And that's one of the theories that I have not yet come to a solution or conclusion about, which is, what is happening here? Why are there so many temples to Artemis? But first, let's get to the Spina. So we show up, we drive up, and I see this car. Okay, we're in the mountains. I'll show you a little bit of video from the site. We're in the mountains, so there's no one around. Often we go to places, of course, that are non-touristy. If we go in May, which is where we're going next, I'm leaving at the end of the month. But if we go November, December, then we go to more popular sites because they'll be empty. So the site is empty, everything's empty, there's no one there, and there's a car. And I say to my traveling partner, my God, there's a car here. There's got to be someone, because there's no one just up here leaving their cars. And when we get there, as we pull over to the side of the road, this man comes out of the car, and we get out, and through our Greek communications, we figure out that he's actually waiting for us, and he was there waiting for us. So it was very, very exciting to see him. And as you'll see, he opens the gate for us, etc. But I want to show you this image first before I show you video footage, because I just wanted you to see how it looks today. So this is the site today. I haven't seen a photograph of this site anywhere, so I was very happy to be able to share photographs and how it used to look before. I don't remember the last time, people had documented the site. It could have been about 10 years ago or so. But there's this reconstruction of the site that I found that was really interesting. And you could see in the back so you can see exactly how you're looking at this temple. You can see in the back where these colossal statues would be. And they're colossal statues because they're about 10 feet tall. And they're sitting down on a throne. So there are these massive, massive statues at the back. Now, of course, this is all that remains. So I think I'm going to have to share my screen with you all again. Hold on. And then we'll talk a little bit about this depiction. Okay. Let's see. Share my entire screen. Yes. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you. Okay. Good? Okay. Excellent. So this is the young man that was there that let us in. Oh my God, that is so wonderful. Actually, I should say something to you all too. So first we go to see the fountain on the other side. But I was wearing green camouflage, and I don't know why, but the hornets were all over me. So when you hear me yelling at hornets or see me batting at things, it's because they kept like biting me. I don't know why they don't like green camouflage, but they don't. Thank you. Thanks so much. Tell you. One of them was just like taking a little nip out of my leg. It's just incredible. This is a large fountain across from the temple. It was full of water. Come on, dude. I am getting attacked by a wasp. Oh, I can kind of see it down there, you see? That's where we're going. The altar of the Spina and the shrine to Artemis. Okay, that's what we're looking for. This site is usually closed. But when we were here, there was a guy here ready to open it. So either this is because Sandra had sent an email that no one responded to about a week ago that we would be here on Thursday, or the goddess has decided that she wants us to film and document the space, or a combination of both. Sorry, that was a big spider's web I just went through. Oh man, it's beautiful. So I am being totally harassed by a wasp who once again doesn't like my pants. But guys, look at this. Look at this. I don't know if I can explain to you how rare this site is. Now, the Spina, or the Spina, is what they call Persephone. It means mistress. And in the ancient world, they were too afraid to say Persephone's name. And so they called her mistress. And here, on the site, although I have to look for it, was also a shrine to Artemis. This is a cistern. So this was the water. The shrine to Artemis may even be right here or here, but it is unlabeled. So I'm going to photograph it all and then figure it out later. So I am at the sanctuary of Despoina, just taking a break and also killing hornets because honestly, I don't know what's wrong with my pants, but they seem to love camouflage anything. So I don't even know. But this is really a dream come true for me. It's a dream come true. I use this sanctuary in my PhD and I've been thinking about it for a long time. And we're here and it's open. It's always closed. So I just want to take a minute and just be grateful, despite the hornets, that the goddess has opened the door for me to be here. Wow, that's amazing. And on the table right here is a reflection of this. Yeah. So it's kind of weird to watch myself talk, to be honest. Okay, let me stop sharing for a second. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's kind of weird to see myself talking, but okay. So those were this as you see here in the image is the colossal statue of, or the body of Artemis. The head, like I said, was at the museum. And there is a shrine to Artemis on the site, but since it's not labeled, in fact, many things are not labeled. So what we do, especially if we don't have a lot of time, because we usually try to do 3 temples in a day, is document everything, take pictures of all the maps that are available on site, all the information that they can give us. He didn't have too much information, to be honest, other than kind of like, yeah, this is the image of what it used to look like, which is fine. I mean, he doesn't have to have all the information, but we were asking, and one of the things that fascinated me is that they had these small votive figurines that looked like priests, but they had the head of a wolf. And so I thought that was really cool. Again, no label, no explanation, nothing. So no real way for us to know exactly what they meant, right? But quite fascinating. And so I've documented all of those as well. And I usually share them on my social media or on my TikTok or the Substack, because sometimes there's just so much to share at once. But we felt really privileged not only to be able to see the site, because I hadn't actually realized that you had to go down into the site. So we couldn't have photographed it from the fence. He had to open the gate so you can go down into the site. But he also opened this little house, as you can see, where they were just storing some of these pieces. And I had also asked him why these are not in the Athens Museum, to which he had no answer, right? Because obviously, again, he doesn't have a say over that. So we felt very lucky that we were able to see them. And so that was the site of Despina. So we've been to 2 temples so far, yeah. The Eleusis temple of Artemis Propylaea, and here at Lycosura, the temple of Artemis as well. And so now I'm going to take you to Mycenae, to the Asclepian ancient site there. I'll have to share my screen with you in a minute because there's a couple of video footage for this. Let me just double check my PowerPoint as we go. Yes. So this is the temple. So we go to the sanctuary of Asclepius in ancient Mycenae, modern day Mycenae in Greece. Also a small town, but a massive archaeological site. And I knew for sure that there was a temple of Artemis Phosphorus on the site itself. Whenever you see Asclepius, you know there's Artemis is around. Again, why that is and how many times this happens is something that I'm collecting data on. We know she's an Epidavros. Now we know she's here. Everywhere where Asclepius is, Artemis is too. So I knew there was going to be a temple there. But as I'm walking, because the site is massive, it's got a theater, it's got baths, it's got everything. Again, an ancient Greek site that then became a Roman site, etc. And as I'm walking to the temple of Phosphorus, which is barely labeled, so we had to ask someone on the site, where is it? So they had kind of shown us, okay, you go through these columns and try to look this way and you could find it. As I'm walking towards it, I pass this site here that you see. And I look down at the label and it says the temple of Artemis or Thea. And so I'm like, oh, was it Artemis or Thea that was here at Asclepius? I thought it was Phosphorus, Okay, again, you have to expect anything when you're on these trekking expeditions. And so I look at the label and I begin to photograph the site, and I'm very excited to see Artemis Orthia. Artemis Orthia, Orthia means standing erect, or is sort of a tall column. It usually refers to a tall column statue, a cult statue. And the one place that Artemis Orthia is widely worshipped, or was widely worshipped, was Sparta. So the Spartans worshipped Artemis. She was their primary goddess, and they worshipped Artemis Orthia, and they did all kinds of bloody rituals to her in Sparta. And so, and offerings with her, I should say, not to her. Lots of festivals where they bled themselves for her, or there was some kind of blood involved for her. So Artemis Orthia is a very hard incarnation, namesake of the goddess. And I was not expecting to see her at this healing site. Okay. So this is an 8th and 7th century BCE temple. So I'm going to share my screen with you all again so that I can play this video. Thank you. Parthika, you're amazing. Can I just say thank you, thank you? Okay. And so this column here has her name on it and an inscription. This is how we know which Artemis it is. And then as you can see here on the bottom, there's also a description of the temple itself and the date, so 8th to 7th century BCE, and a little reconstruction of what it would have looked like. But from where I'm standing here, as you can see, you think, okay, this is the temple of Artemis at Mycenae, right? So I was like, oh, okay, fine. Okay, let me stop sharing. Thank you. And I was a little disappointed thinking, okay, the temple to Artemis Orthia is great, but like I said, she's a tough goddess. I was really looking for Artemis of Torches, and I knew that something with Phosphorus was really on there. This temple is, was a Doric temple. It was a small temple, 4 columns. And here, Artemis Orthia at Mycenae is associated with the wild, a combination of the wild in the city, so bringing the wild down into the ancient city of Mycenae, as well as protection, discipline. Again, Artemis Orthia is a very tough goddess, very much about discipline. And the initiation ceremonies of both boys and girls happen here at this temple. In the 3rd century BC, this temple was abandoned, and this temple to Artemis Orthia was supposedly moved to the opposite side of the Asclepion, which is not there anymore. Okay, so I thought, okay, fine, that's how it is, no problem. And then I literally just walk a little straighter, and right in front of this temple, right beside this temple of Orthia, is the temple of Artemis Phosphorus. So for this one too, I'm going to share with you my screen. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes. The Artemisian. The base of the cult statue of Artemis Phosphorus. Oh, bases for statues of girls and priestesses. Beautiful. Oh my God. Oh my God. So sometimes when I hear myself, okay, let me stop sharing. Sometimes when I hear myself, yeah, you can only imagine my excitement, because I was like, yes, the temple is here. It's the one that I was looking for. And this temple is actually quite amazing. Okay, so let me show you the next picture of it. This temple is a fascinating temple to Artemis Phosphorus, which is the light bringer. Orthia is right beside her. So we've got 2 temples to Artemis on the same site, side by side. Okay. But within this particular temple, there is sort of a semicircle of columns with a tall column that had the little priestesses of Artemis, about 11 of them, although they have 7 in the museum, which I'm going to show you. And then on the tall column, there was a cult statue of Artemis Phosphorus, which of course we no longer have. So the torchbearer, she symbolizes light, guidance, transformation, etc., etc. But we no longer have that statue. However, they did find 7 of the 11 priestesses and little girl statues that used to be on each of the columns. And so here I am standing outside the temple, looking into it. You can see that this piece is covered because so much of it inside is valuable still. So let me play this little video for you. Hold on. Yay. Thank you. Look at us like pros over here with this video. Okay, so where I'm standing here, this would be where the altar was, right in front of the Artemisian. People would make their offerings here, remember, never inside the sacred house. And in here on the statues would be where they placed mostly little girl statue offerings. And on this statue here, column, not statue, column, is the tall one. Yeah, is what Artemis Phosphorus would be. And while there are several inscriptions that are quite hard to read here. You can see Artemis's name right here. So we know that this is where these statues were made into, were put on these columns, and then each of these columns have an inscription that tells us who this offering was made from, and or who is on the column, etc., etc. Thank you. So these are, we don't have to play this video because I'm just really walking around. These are actually, yeah, no, you know what? Let's play this video and I will tell you the story as it plays because I think it's silent. These are the statues that were found. Okay. And so what I'm doing with the video here is I'm kind of taking you around in a semicircle in the same way that you're kind of looking at this semicircle of statues. So on the tall column would have been the statue of Artemis Phosphorus. So she's the leading goddess, obviously, inside this temple. And then on each of these columns or these bases that you see here would have been a statue of a priestess or a young woman that was offered to Artemis. So obviously we've got these 7 that are here that are these large pieces, but there would have been smaller ones offered that we've lost. There would have been others offered that we've lost. There might have been some in the back. There might have been some all around. So leaving a statue inside a temple like this is a way of honoring the goddess, but also asking for her protection in taking care of the individual that is being represented in the statue herself. So on the site of ancient Mycenae, if you go a little bit off the beaten path, there is a small museum that you can go into, and you can see these statues. Only a couple of them have names on them still. A lot of them, the names are unreadable, so they didn't really put the names on there. And so that's part of the mystery of who they might have been or what their names were. We know one of them was named Meope, the one right straight in the back to the right, but the other ones are nameless. So it says young girl, young priestess, etc. 5th century BCE, 4th century BCE, that kind of stuff. Yeah. The other amazing piece at the temple and in the museum, well, okay, at the temple is this little wishing box. So people would put money in this little wishing box and make a wish. So that's still there. People still putting money in it. And yes, you can bet that I also put some money in it. You never know. Inside the museum, there is this amazing statue of Artemis Laphria. Artemis Laphria comes from Calydon, and she is actually one of the more vicious interpretations or embodiment of the goddess. In Calydon, Artemis Laphria used to be offered live sacrifices. So people would bring their animals and throw them into a fire for her there live. Lots to talk about Artemis Laphria. The original cult statue from Laphria does not exist. However, in Mycenae, there is this statue of Artemis Laphria. So we have an inclination that somehow that cult was widespread and other depictions of Artemis Laphria were found in other areas. So now we are happy to have found 2 temples, right? We're all excited. Oh my God, 2 temples. This is so great. We're at Asclepius. No one else has 2 temples except Artemis. Yay, not even Asclepius has 2 temples. As we leave ancient Mycenae, we see a sign that points to a temple to Artemis Limnatis. Okay, you got to take your car down. You know, some of you have been to Greece, or if you haven't, the tiniest roads on the planet. So we're like, of course, we're going to go up there and see the temple. So we take our car in this kind of circular mountain range, and thank God that they had a sign, because it was a fairly recent archaeological dig. By recent, I mean, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So there is a sign there. And so we pull up in a little space, and there's a temple to Artemis Laphria, which is great. When we get there, there is another sign that says If you keep going up a little bit, you can find a temple to Artemis Eleuthia, which is our childbirth. Eleuthia is the goddess of childbirth. And so my friend, who is not a hiker, right? So I do all the hiking. She does most of the strategizing and the GPSing. Yeah. I said to her, well, we have to go up there. We have to go up there. And so she says, I'll wait in the car and you go. I mean, this was June in Greece. It's hot. Yeah. So I climbed up to the temple. Now, up at that temple is just basically some ruins left of Artemis Eleuthia, just the temple walls. But up on top of the mountain, there is this version of Artemis to childbirth. And so there, again, very little explanation of what happened up here, because many people, we haven't really quite figured it out. And but what fascinates me is, are pregnant women coming up the mountain? So there's two temples down in the Asclepion. There's one just on the half mountain, and then there's one at the top of the mountain. 4 temples within a 3-kilometer range. So fascinating information. So I spend my time documenting, filming, all that kind of stuff. But I don't have time to take you through all of those. I thought that I would also take you, because we are okay. I thought that I would also take you. Oh, this is a hecateon that they found also at Mycenae. So a hecateon, as some of you know, is the triple goddess, the triple Hecate, usually used for Hecate at the crossroads, called a hecateon. But this is an Artemis hecateon, which was found at the site, which is the only one I've ever seen. Very, very rare. And brings up a lot of questions. Artemis, Hecate are very much interweaving goddesses. Hecate, Selene, Artemis are called the Artemis triad often. So again, this supports the idea that Artemis has this significant impact, significant following, significant history that has to be in some ways dug up literally. And not dug up, maybe dug up's the wrong word, but visited literally, physically, going from place to place to see some of these pieces. So for example, none of these pieces from this museum are online or accessible for any of us. And so when I'm walking into this is a very small museum. It's, as you can see here, it's 2 rooms. And so when I looked at this hecateon of Artemis, I was shocked, because I thought, well, I've never seen one before like this. It's also quite large. So adding to that documentation, adding to that data collection, and who knows what this will look like in 5 years. Hopefully it will support my hypothesis that she is the most popular goddess in Greece. We'll see. So I thought I'd share that with you too, because it's quite a rarity. But I wanted to also share with you this hike, this random hike. So the sanctuary of Artemis Epikritea, Epikritea translates into the word dominant, in a way that the goddess is dominant over this entire region, that owns this entire region, controls, protects this region. None of this was available until we went to the museum in Messalongi. And when we were in the museum in Messalongi, they had a wall with this image, which is the reconstruction of the sanctuary. And I have a list of 300, 400 names. I'm exaggerating now, maybe about 300 names of Artemis, and I didn't have Epikritea. And so I asked the museum curators, what is this? Like, I hadn't seen this before anywhere else. So they're like, oh yeah, there's a sanctuary at Artemis Epikritea, and these are some of the things that were found there, etc., etc. So I said to my travel partner, oh, we have to go. I said to the museum curator, is there anything out there? Because often there isn't. And she goes, I don't know, but I know that there are at least 500 statues or pieces of statues that were found at the site. And so I said to my traveling partner, oh, we have to go. And the museum curator said to me, Carla, by this time we were on a first name basis, it's high up on the mountain. I said, I know, this seems to be a recurring theme. And she said, there's snakes out there. I know, I've seen snakes. They run away. They're okay. There's scorpions too. I know. I've invested in good boots. I have to go see this place. Yeah. So they told us to go down this road to this small town. I'll show you in a minute. And then look for a restaurant that has been closed for 10 years and look for an image on the wall of Artemis, and then ask somebody up there how to get up there. Okay, so they really had no real directions to give us. I said, okay, we're going to go out there and we're going to find it. And one of the ways that we also map the place sometimes is if once we're in Greece, you can start looking for, I don't even know how to explain it, but we just start digging for this name. We start digging for this site. We start digging for this archaeologist, for example, in this case, E.L. Schwanderer. And what we found accidentally was a picture from a hotel, an old hotel that once used to take people up to the site. And one of their images as part of the hotel photographs was a view from the temple, like out to the sea. And so we knew, I know this sounds weird, but we knew what it would look like once you stood on the site. So we just had to drive until we kind of got a similar view. And then I had to climb up until I could maybe find the view. So this is sometimes how we stumble on some of these places. Okay. So I thought that I would take you on an actual hike. It's, yeah, not the whole hike, obviously, because this is a 3-hour hike. It takes me hours to get up there. But I thought that I would show you the different moments in the hike when I keep telling myself, I'm sure it's over here. I'm sure it's over here. I can see it. I think I can see it. It's got to be over here. Oh, look at all these rocks. Of course, there's lots of rocks everywhere in Greece. And as you will see, it takes me just a little while to get up there. Yeah. So let me share with you my screen. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so this is the beginning. I'm in the back of someone's farm. People are farming around me. They just told me go up the mountain, you know. And I thought that this was a fence, but it ends up being a Greek fence, which is really what I call a goat fence. You can just take the things off and keep going. Yeah. Okay. It is a Greek lock. It is. Ah. Okay. Okay. And see, I have to climb up there. I think it's somewhere up there. Okay. Okay. So, let me see if I can find my way up there. There's no real path, but I've got 2 pins. Oh, but look at this. This kind of looks like something, right? No, this is definitely it. But so I'm gonna explore a little bit up here. And actually, I'm gonna climb up first and then go to the side because I'm just gonna follow the pin first. No, doesn't seem to be any remnants of a dig, but I think this is definitely the area. So let me see if it will let me. Okay, so maybe I can share my screen with you for a little bit, guys, because I've got a few videos to share with you. So what I'm looking for is this remnants of a site dig. So as some of you know who are in archaeology, when archaeologists are digging, they have usually like a corner or a place where they throw, pieces of terracotta or other pieces that are neither can be dated nor are from the time period or etc. So usually when you see something like this, you are you're close to a temple site. So I was looking for something like this. Unfortunately, and the pin that I'm talking about is we had placed a pin where we think it is, and I was walking towards it. Yeah. So here I go. I continue on. I think it's literally where that tree is. I think. But I don't know. You see all the layers? 1, 2, 3. Okay. A part of me just wants to just climb the damn rocks, you know? So a part of me is trying to be smart and figure out an easy way to get up there. And another part of me is like, let's just climb the rocks, Carla, or the mud. So I think I'm just gonna climb up there because there may be a road to go around the back, but that's no guarantee. Although I have a feeling when I get up there, because this is a recommended place to visit for hikers. So, like, okay, Carla. I have a feeling once I get up there, I'm gonna find a way to climb down, but I gotta put the phone down. There's no way to climb without hands. So there's a couple of things with this. Number one, everything I do is on my phone and I'm doing it by myself. So I'm just talking to myself, as you can see, and encouraging myself every now and then, telling myself, I'm sure it's over here. I'm sure it's going to happen. I'm sure we're close. I'm sure, etc., etc. Yeah. What I'm looking for is this piece. Yeah. You can't tell actually on the iPhone how high I am up on the mountain and how steep the climb is. So I'm going to show you a short video so you can kind of see the stones. I'm holding the phone in my hand, so you can see the stones are really close to my hand, so you can kind of, I hope that you can get an idea of the steepness of the climb. So often I have to put the phone down and pull myself up the rocks to get up there. And so that's why sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, I just want to go through the rocks to get there. But obviously that's not realistic and not safe. And so I got to breathe through it and talk myself through it. So here are the stones. Okay, I made it up the rocks. I have to make it up just a little bit more, and I think it's literally up here. Oh my. Whoa. Okay. Well, I have reached something. Look at these stones. So this is still not it. Fuck. I think it's one more layer up. Fuck. Okay, pardon my language, my friends. And my body is scratched. Hands scratched. Shoes scratched. I mean, feet. Okay, I gotta check that Google map because there's no way up there. Oh, shit. Okay. So I kind of thought that for sure I wasn't gonna find it. I, as you can tell, was tired. 2 hours in, couldn't see anything. Everything was hurting. I went through 2 pairs of shoes in the last expedition because everything that you see here is sharp and dry. So you can't really hold on to it because it cracks in your hands and it also pierces your hands. But what I was looking for, and as you can see here, is these foundation rocks. These rocks tell me that there's a sanctuary foundation. So the minute that I saw these rocks, I was like, oh, hallelujah, I am here. However, getting to these rocks to film the site was its own treachery. It's definitely up here. It's definitely up here. Look at those. Those are octagonal rocks. I mean, there's this big rock in the way. I have to figure out how to get across, but it's definitely up there. It's definitely up there. Okay. Nice and easy, Carla. There's a fence here, okay. Nice and easy, Carla. I think so, and I think that's what the fence is for. So, oh yeah, oh, that's definitely it. That's definitely it. I just have to climb up there. My God. Okay. So one of the reasons I talk to myself is because when I get super excited, I start to run towards it, and I usually end up injuring myself. So I thought I'd play you this while it's on silent. You can't hear anything. So this is the site from the top. So I had climbed up the side of it here. There was a fence here, but it was broken down. And this is the site of the sanctuary that remains. This would have been the back of the site where I'm standing, and looking right here. It's behind, in the very back of the sanctuary. You can see the pieces of pottery that have been left behind. There are also lots of cracks in the earth that are quite deep. Actually, it would be great to have one of those kind of long tunnel cameras to see what's in there. But you can imagine that there have been several earthquakes in the meantime. Things have shifted around. Gaps have formed in the sanctuary floor. But this is the image that I saw in the picture as I was looking. But as you can see, when you come up the mountain and you're looking out at a sea with a mountain, you're seeing that view for, I don't know, an hour of climbing. So it's a guide, but it's not exact. And so finding the site takes quite a while. But I was really glad to find it and to be able to document it and, for example, share it with you all and share it with others. It's a very, very long climb. So on the map itself, I do describe how long it takes to get up there, how fit or what is the expectation of the challenge of fitness to get up there, how easy it is to find, even though I've put it on the map. So you can see, you can't see, but we had a pin on the map around this area. Now we have a pin on the map for the exact area. But even though we had it, you had to go through layers and layers and layers of climbing up there. And so it takes a while to get up there, and it takes a while to find it. But once you get there, it's super, super exciting that you've been to a place that very few people knew about. When I asked the museum curator what happened to all of the 500 sculptures that were found here, so she said that they have 3 that are in decent shape, but many of the others are, broken pieces of torsos or limbs. And so those are in a warehouse somewhere where they keep much of the offerings that they've found at the site. Yeah. Okay. So now let me share my presentation with you one more time. Woohoo. Okay, perfect. Oh my goodness. Okay, we've got like 10 minutes. Let me take you. Let's see what I've got next. Okay, so this is the site as I saw it from the one side, and this is the image again of the way the site used to be. So again, the question becomes, how many people climbed up here? Lots of people. Clearly, this was the main sanctuary in the village. They came up with donkeys, with food. They made offerings here outside the temple. They slept here overnight, as you can see in this piece here that looks almost like a little camping site. They spent a lot of time at this site. So this site has very communal energy, very communal roots. Yeah. These are some of the pieces that were found on the site. So the head of Artemis here, for example, this piece here, this relief, this plaque is of a sacrifice that is being made to the goddess. This little miniature altar where small things would have been offered, like fruits or incense, little statues of Artemis here. This is someone's name on a roof tile. So if you wanted to support the temple, you would pay for a roof tile and your name on a roof tile, and that was one of the ways that you would patronize the temple. So these are just some of the pieces that were found there. Yeah, okay. Let me take you to my last temple. So I promised you we would go to Turkey. Okay. We went to Turkey in November and we visited, again, about 10 sites. These are sites that are already on the map. They may not be documented, recently, but they are on the map, and they are visitable, that's not a word, sites. And so because in Turkey, in order to access the sites that are not visitable, again, not a word, you have to, permission needs to be taken a lot more carefully. There's a lot of security, there's a lot of military, there's a lot of, for other things, not so much for our research, but for other things that you just have to make sure you get clearance. And so what we're doing is we have a list of places we want to see for next time. So what we'll do is we will submit for permissions to go to those sites. And, they're like, no problem. Just you have to have it in case someone thinks that you're, maybe someone else doing some other things. So, but I wanted to show you this temple of Artemis at Sardis because it's amazing. It's beautiful. And it has this fantastic story. And it's quite massive, and it's actually not visited as much as I thought it would be, which is quite wonderful. So, do I have video of the site? Yes, I do. Okay, hold on. Let me share with you my screen. Thank you, Pratika. All right. So this is us arriving at the site. It's like 8 a.m. in the morning. We're very excited in November. We have arrived at the temple of Artemis Sardis. Look at the kitty cats. Very excited. There's no one else here except us. Woohoo! Okay, and I'm going to continue sharing my screen. Hold on. For the next... Oh, actually, no, I don't need to. Perfect. These are not videos. Okay. So you can... Yes. Thank you, Pratika. So... these are some of the images at the site. So let me tell you the story of Sardis. So this was built in about 560, 540. And one of my favorite stories here, told to us by Herodotus, is that under the rule of the tyrant Perinder of Corinth, these group of young boys, they say 300 young boys, sometimes they say 100 young boys, etc., were forcibly taken from their home with the intent to be castrated in the service for the court or the household, because eunuchs were occasionally used in the royal or noble households across the Mediterranean at this time. The boys were sent first to Sardis, which is right here, and the capital of Lydia, and this major hub under King Croesus. So this is around 546 BCE. When they arrived in Sardis, all of the people of Sardis realized what these boys were being held hostage for. And they were shocked. They were upset. And they helped the boys escape. And the boys escaped into the temple of Artemis. They were seeking asylum. They started holding on to the columns, to the statues. They were allowed inside, and they were given protection. So Herodotus tells us that when they arrived in Sardis, they took sanctuary in the temple of Artemis, holding on to the statues. And the people of Sardis took pity on them and began to stand guard for them and not let the Corinthians come and grab them. So the Corinthians were like, okay, fine. So what? You're inside the temple, blah, 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 but you're not going to get food. You're going to get hungry. You're going to want to come outside. So later sources tell us that, in fact, the people of Sardis, recognizing that the boys would go hungry inside, created this dancing festival in which they held honey cakes. Honey cakes were offerings to the goddess of Artemis. It's one of her favorite treats. Also, if you ever go to one of these temples, you may want to buy a little honey cake and leave it there for the goddess, but that's just a slight suggestion. So you can buy honey cakes everywhere in Greece. And so they made honey cakes, and they started gathering around the temple and sort of dancing in a circle, holding these honey cakes in their hands, close enough that the boys would run out of the temple, grab the honey cakes from their hands, and go inside. Yeah. And so they were receiving sustenance, they were eating while they were staying safe in this temple. And so they did this for, I think, about 14 days, 30 days, enough time that the Corinthians were like, okay, this is going to be annoying. We're wasting our time. These boys are not worth our time. And they eventually gave up and left. And so then the boys were returned to their homes, wherever they had been picked up or stolen from or kidnapped from. And so then the Temple of Sardis is this site that has this long tradition of sanctuary and protection, based on this story. So now they have a festival of honey cakes, which is really wonderful, usually in the spring. But based on the story of salvation, here she also becomes then Artemis Soteira, or Artemis the Savior. So I thought that I would. These are some of the images of the Temple of Sardis. And while I was there, interestingly, a dog came to stand beside me, as you can see. Yeah. I mean, there are cats and dogs everywhere. So some people might be like, well, that's not that miraculous. But this dog just came and stood there with me. And we stared out at the temple for a while. And then it left. And I never saw it again. So a part of me thinks that perhaps the goddess is like, hey, how's it going? Thanks for documenting this as well. All right, bye. Yeah. So I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation. We've come to the end. If you'd like to follow me on the adventures that have happened in the past and that are coming up at the end of April, we're going in May. We're going to visit several sites. You can find me anywhere online on any app at Artemis Expert. You can purchase my book, She Who Hunts. That's the first one. And like I said, Artemis of Ephesus is coming up soon. And then if you would like to join me on my podcast on YouTube or anywhere else you listen to podcasts, I have a podcast called The Goddess Project. Yeah, and this QR code is for the Artemis Research Center website. Feel free to browse around there and see all the things that we're doing in order to continue supporting the research, continue doing the research, and finish this mapping project. And then who knows what's next. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope this was fun, and letting me talk about this obsession.
Thank you for the incredible lecture, Carla. I'm sure we are all walking away having learned something new. And your passion is absolutely infectious, and we can see how much it means to you and how hard you're working for it. And we are very excited to see how the map will continue to evolve because, of course, heritage is not about the grand monuments, but also about these quiet corners of our world. And thank you for everyone watching. Again, if you can, please donate for our birthday bash. You can follow this link to support our birthday bash. And if you donate $5 or more, you gain access to our special donor appreciation event. And thank you again, and we'll be back with more masterclasses. Have a great day.
Bye, all. Thank you so much.